things of that nature.
If I could just elaborate a little bit, the 4 basics that I use in particular would be similar to a retainer, and then there's KPIs, key, right? So if you would have those scope and you retain those, you get X amount of dollars. And there's always a commission. I don't know, if you're in business development or some kind of achievement that the company achieves a certain amount of dollars, you would get some percentage of that. And then the last could be a part of sweat equity. If in a way you're in that alliance, if you will, it could be paying for stock, it could be something like that.
Especially with small companies that don't have any money. They can give you a small percentage of the company in exchange for. One of the things that's difficult about doing success fees is if you get into a hassle or you're haggling about, did you do this? Did you not do this? And does it worth this? Is it not worth that? And even if you have a contract, sometimes that can sour the relationship. So you have to be careful with that. I prefer a base fee with booster incentives. Yeah.
Sure. And to tag on to that, I'm involved in 2 right now that are active, and both of those are revenue share based because they have recurring revenue on them, and that percentage has been innovative. Where I believe it stays because I'm just not this looking cool enough to do this as well as I wish. Has been on termination of the revenue share over time. One of them's been going on for multiple years. Client ownership. As we've moved on, who gets to retain that client relationship, because that's really becomes an issue in my line of work. And with a lot of us who are consulting, the clients tend to gravitate potentially one to the other. At what point, if the client is gravitating one way or the other, does that revenue share then need to shift? And in one situation, the client has completely moved away from the person I'm sharing with, but there's no termination on that revenue share. Mm-hmm. So there's things like that. So
yeah, and you can write that into your contract originally. Typically for me it would be like a 1-year agreement, or if they do something, then you would get that. But yeah,
it's just interesting. And then people come to you and say, "Hey, would you be interested in a strategic partnership?" And because nothing has been defined, there's no project on the table, things like that. Mm-hmm. I really find myself at a loss for what does that conversation look like.
Yeah,
well,
can I sort of interrupt you? Sure. We're talking to a company out of Cincinnati right now for potential strategic partnership, and they offer a lot of back of the house services, far broader, than we do, obviously. And their interest is in becoming a partner so that we, in effect, leverage their business development. And so our members, if they got a client that needs their services, we can make the introduction, we get a referral fee from that. And so we're just talking through the initial discussion at this point. So what would you say if there were top 3 hot buttons or risk points that we should make sure that we cover, for instance, that would keep us out of trouble?
Well, you need a formal agreement. So you can't just say, okay, we agree, and then wing it, so you need, and it can be simple. You don't want it to be too complex. We've got numerous templates. I'm happy to share with you on that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to find out what you're collaborating on. You're not maybe collaborating on everything. It's not necessarily an all or nothing. So like I said, on the West Coast, we've got companies very niche, either product-based or vertical-based, vertical market-based, or product development-based. In the life sciences area, it used to be the big pharma companies had their own big, giant research and development departments. And they would work and work and work, and then have the drug, the billion-dollar drug that they would find, and then they would take that to market, and that would pay for everything else. Well, that way is going the way of the dinosaur now. And so we have smaller business unit focused, and they're also partnering with other companies and technology companies. One of the big things is technology companies and consulting companies. How do you work together in that type of a partnership? So I would say first, get a formal agreement. Second, carve out the little area that you want to work with. And then third, set up a governance structure where you're going to meet regularly and talk and, those types of things. So those are three little ABCs, simple ones to make sure you get off on the right foot.
Just sharing real life experiences. You know, when you talk about revenue sharing, is it gross, is it net? And then they're in charge of it, right? So it's their interpretation of it. And then you have to kind of be real, because I came across a situation where the company was hired, but then they had to outsource a lot of it. Well, that kind of affected the profit margin, so you have to be kind of flexible on that, or they wouldn't be able to even to get the order. And then I had a situation where I brought in a very large client. It wasn't signed yet, and guess what? My contract ended, right? So these are real life experiences that happen.
And I would like to add one of my experience on a revenue share. I was doing consulting for RB, which is part of Inspire. And when we were talking with CM, he was not convinced with the digitization of their restaurant chain. He was not there on board with the entire strategy and the ROI it will have. So we signed up a kind of a contract with them, and we said, okay, we will take a shot on it. Initially, this is what our charge will be. And I was part of essential strategy at the point of time. And for every transaction happens through the digital channel, we will have $1, right? We will get the $1. And he was immediately ready. But there is an end clause to it that maximum we will get this much of it. Means it's not like ever maximum we will get this much of revenue or next 3 years, whichever comes something. I'm just sharing like some.
Yeah, I don't like leading with the money, and I don't like leading with the legal. So, you know, I mean, if there's no business, all that stuff doesn't matter. So nothing happens until somebody sells something. And when you sell something, one of the things I think that's very important is you have to own the, yeah?
No, I'm sorry, I just came back into this.
Oh, yeah.
This is oranges, the fertilizers.
Yeah, yeah. Careful with the fertilizer, you know.
I think that helps more than anything. It's really just to identify the scope of work, and if there's not business to be had, the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's right. Yeah, and so if you can grow the pie, everybody's happy. If there's just a little tiny crumbs and everybody's fighting over it, well, the alliance framework is almost impossible to implement because there's just not enough, you know, juice in the squeeze. Thanks for coming. Okay.
In terms of positioning, how would you, I mean, obviously in this space, you're competing with some of the bigger corporate agencies, what have you, that provide all-in-one service. So I think naturally you gravitate towards competing on price, which means the pot gets smaller to divide between all the people working on it. How do you, what are some of the strategies you can use to market beyond, I mean, market expertise, but what in your opinion is successful strategy?
Yeah, I don't like arguing about price or competing on price. I don't like that way of doing it. Everybody has to do it, of course, sometimes. But for me, I'm not competing with the big giant companies so much as, you know, like my former company, Cap Gemini or Ernst Young. I did a project here in town for a company called North Highland. Maybe you know them. They're a mid-tier consulting company, about 1,000 consultants spread across the U.S. And their project was they had about a dozen U.S. offices, but they didn't have anything abroad. So they were losing business, like when Coca-Cola said, we need a project in China, you know, and a little project in the UK, for example. Well, if you can't answer it, then they're going to go to somebody else. So one of the things I try to do is have full coverage. So I've got all geographies covered. I've got relationships that I've built up over 30 years that I maintain, and I hope create some new ones here with this group. And yeah, for me, the key market for us, for me, and probably the people in this room is the mid-tier market. Yeah, so because if you go after the big guys, they already have got suppliers and the people that they're used to working with. And I've done, for example, proposals for big companies, and they love the proposal, but they end up choosing Ernst Young because, well, I'm not going to get fired if I hire E&Y, you know, whereas if I hire little Troy, you know, who knows what will happen, you know. And so, and then the little companies, the startups, they tend to be helter-skelter. They don't have any money. They don't have any organization. So it's hard for me to jump in there with those young people and run around all crazy like. So I like those mid-tier. I like those mid-tier companies that have, and you know, what is mid-tier? Well, mid-tier, you know, could start as with, you know, $10 million and could go all the way up to, you know, for me, $500 million. It depends on if it's a manufacturing company or a consulting company, or most of my clients are consultants or software companies. That's my client base. And in those spaces, you know, being a consultant to the consultants, I'm not really competing, so I'm actually working with those guys. And then with software companies, all they want to do is be able to, excuse me, all they want to do is be able to, you know, most of the time, scale their business. So how do they take their software product, their app or their platform or whatever it is, and grow it across the US and grow it international? Well, that's hard to do. You got to find distributors and retail partners and things like that. So I help them do that. But yeah, I think that our good market is not too small, not too big, in somewhere in the middle. I think that's easiest for us. And if you can also deal with the top guy, that's a lot better. Because if you're dealing with a big organization and it's a mid-level manager and he has to get permission, or you have to go through procurement, or you have to write a formal big long proposal, that's not a good recipe for success for an independent. Yeah.
And sometimes it's the job you're doing is part of that person's job description, so they feel threatened by it.
Could feel threatened. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
But you know what I found, you know, because again, I was in oil and gas, you know, super big. Sometimes though, the division you're working with has autonomy and pretty much above just rubber stamps, you know, at that point.
Yeah. If you can find the buyer, the key thing is who's going to write the check, who's going to sign the contract. So if you can find the buyer and it's in a division or in a department or in a subsidiary, and you're dealing directly with that individual, yeah, go for it. Yeah, no doubt about it. Oil and gas projects are big, huge, giant, complex projects and chemicals and all that. And I think also you need kind of an expertise, not a deep one, but it's hard to be just a generalist. I think you need to have general consulting skills, but then also have some expertise. And it can be, like we put up here, a vertical expertise, and it can be a horizontal expertise like this. Could, you know. Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit to more of the partnership, where there's not so much of a formal agreement, but there's another company that's sort of in the same space. For a business consultant, it might be a commercial real estate, something like that, where you're really just saying, hey, let's get to know each other, and we're after the same folks, but in different ways. Can you speak to how to kind of set those up?
Yeah, and I think the main thing is, do you have a relationship with the person? And if you know the person, there's people that for example, in my company, I haven't done any advertising or any real commercial activities, just because I've built out a network of executives over 30 years, but I work hard at maintaining that. So I'm very faithful and if I can help people to make introductions. So know the person yourself, and if you don't know them, get somebody that does, and then kind of broker it. So the relationship is extremely important. If you have a good relationship, you can always figure it out. And then the second thing is, how by coming together are you stronger than being apart? And if you can't answer that question and you don't have a value proposition for the partnership, probably, not really useful. Most of the time people want a partnership so I have access to more accounts, more clients. And so, but you have to have a give-get model. what are you bringing to the table if you're getting, receiving